Welcome to the deep dive. You're probably here because, well, you love how books can shed light on things, but finding time for a really deep read, that's tough.
It really is. Life gets busy.
Exactly. So that's what we do here. Today we're getting into The Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo.
Ah, yes. Nepo calls it a soul friend, which I think is a lovely way to put it.
It is. It's meant as a companion, really, for trying to line up our inner lives with our outer lives.
Right. And it's structured with these daily entries, but they all kind of weave together these bigger ideas.
That's what we want to explore, not just day by day, but the connections.
Exactly. There's this central idea running through it all. Nepo talks about each page pointing towards a living center.
A living center.
Yeah, like this timeless core within us, a gift that can, well, free us and shape us if we engage with it.
Okay. So our goal today is to explore some of those key ideas that connect back to that center.
That's the plan. Give you some of those aha moments, hopefully,
Yeah.
but without, drowning you in information.
Sounds good. Let's dive in then. One of the first big ones, something I think we all struggle with, is this idea of holding on too tightly.
Oh, definitely. He has that great image, doesn't he? The man at the door.
Yes, trying to open a door, but his hands are completely full.
With groceries, paint, but also like stories, love, pain, just stuff.
All the burdens, big and small. And he literally can't open the door because he won't put anything down.
It's almost funny, but then it hits you. The core insight is, well, it's pretty direct.
Which is?
We cannot hold on to things and enter. Simple as that. You have to put down what you're carrying first. Open the door, then pick up only what you actually need to bring inside.
Okay, so connecting that to why someone might be listening, wanting to learn effectively.
Right. It's like sometimes to really grasp a new idea, and you need to set aside what you think you know. Or maybe just the less important bits you've collected.
Make some mental space, like clearing your desk before starting a new project.
Exactly that. Decluttering the mind a bit.
Okay, so letting go is key. What about authenticity? That seems like another big theme.
Huge. He brings in that quote from Angela Sarian.
The green hair one, I love that.
You too. Never hide your green hair. They can see it anyway. It just sticks with you.
It does. What's the deeper meaning there, you think?
Well, Nepo reflects on how, even from childhood, we start hiding parts of ourselves, right? Our quirks, our vulnerabilities, because we're afraid of what people will think.
Yeah, fear of judgment.
Totally. So that quote is like a wake-up call,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're interested in self-knowledge and understanding yourself and the world without feeling, inadequate. It suggests maybe those things we try to hide, they're more obvious than we think.
So the effort is wasted.
Or maybe just better spent. Embracing those things,
Oh, right.
understanding them makes you ask, what's your green hair? What are you trying to hide? And what if you just didn't?
That's a powerful question. Okay, so if we're being more authentic, how does that play out in relationships? He has an interesting idea there, too.
Ah, the taking turns concept.
Yes.
He uses the metaphor of pearl divers.
Pearl divers, how does that work?
Imagine two divers. One goes down deep into the water, exploring the inner world, maybe dealing with personal stuff.
All right.
The other stays up top, tending the rope, watching out, connected to the surface world, the practical things.
So one internal, one external.
Sort of. And Nepo says healthy relationships often have this rhythm. One person needs to dive deep for a while, the other holds the space, provides support, then they switch.
Ah, I see. A balance.
Exactly. It lets each person do their inner work or face their challenges, knowing the connection is secure. It's something to think about in your own key relationships, isn't it?
Definitely. Is there that balance? Who's diving? Who's tending the line? That's insightful.
Yeah. And sticking with inner resources, there's that Idoma proverb he shares.
The one about darkness.
That's it. No matter how dark, the hand always knows the way to the mouth.
It sounds so basic, almost primal.
It is, but profound. It speaks to our innate ability to sustain ourselves, even when everything feels uncertain or scary.
How so?
Well, even if you can't see the path ahead, Nepo points out, your basic needs, your core instincts, they keep going. Your heart beats, you breathe.
Right.
There's this deep drive to nurture ourselves physically, emotionally, spiritually, even when the lights go out, metaphorically speaking.
That really speaks to resilience, doesn't it? Finding that inner strength when things are tough.
Absolutely. It's that core that keeps us going.
He also uses this other metaphor, the tank versus the big, wide world.
Oh, yeah, the fish tank idea.
Yeah.
He wonders if we've been sort of taught to fear life outside the tank.
Taught to limit ourselves.
Kind of. He asks, are we preparing ourselves for a small, contained life or for the uncontainable world?
And what does he suggest helps us swim in that bigger world?
Things like spontaneity, kindness, curiosity. He
Hmm.
wonders if these aren't our natural ways of navigating the open ocean, rather than things we should only use cautiously inside our little tank.
So maybe our hesitation holds us back.
That's the question he poses. When you feel that impulse to be spontaneous or kind, or just ask a question, are you holding back? Are you choosing the tank over the ocean? It makes you think about your own comfort zones.
It really does. Okay, shifting gears slightly, but still related to being ourselves. There's that Talmudic saying he brings up.
Ah, yes. Powerful stuff. God will not judge Akiba for not being Moses. God will judge Akiba for not being Akiba.
Wow, that cuts right through the comparison trap, doesn't it?
Completely. Nepo points out how much energy we waste comparing ourselves to historical figures, to people around us, trying to measure up to some external ideal.
We all do it.
We do.
Right.
But this saying emphasizes that our own unique being has inherent value. You're not supposed to be Moses. You're supposed to be you.
Like a tree isn't trying to be a different kind of tree.
Exactly. A maple is a maple, an oak is an oak. Nepo suggests that real abundance, real richness, comes when we embrace our own unique nature, not when we try to copy someone else's.
What a relief that is, actually. Our job is just to be ourselves.
Fundamentally, yes. And that connects to another story he tells about embodying what we believe.
The dancer, Ted Sean.
That's the one. A divinity student, struggling, who finds healing not just by studying theology, but by dancing it.
So moving it from the head to the body.
Precisely. The intellectual understanding was one thing, but the physical expression, embodying the feeling, that's what brought healing. Nepo sums it up beautifully. Dance, in all its forms, is theology lived.
Theology lived, wow.
It speaks right to that desire for aha,
Mm.
moments that are more than just information. It's about living what you know, what you feel, daring to express it.
Moving beyond just thinking about it. Okay, what about fear? That seems to come up too.
Yes, he uses this image of a door of fear. He talks about standing before a dark room, hesitating.
That feeling of the unknown.
Right. But instead of running away, he waits, stays with the discomfort,
Yeah.
and eventually his eyes adjust.
And he sees something.
Yes, he sees pictures on the wall, realizes things about his family, his grandfather, finds a connection he wouldn't have found if he'd avoided the darkness.
So the fear itself becomes a doorway to discovery.
That's the idea. We often avoid what scares us, vulnerability, difficult truths, whatever it is. But Nepo suggests that entering that fear, or at least standing at the threshold patiently, is often how we learn the most about ourselves.
So it invites you, the listener, to think. What's a door you're afraid to approach?
Exactly. Trusting that even darkness can become seeable with patience.
That's a powerful image. It reminds me of the poem he shares, too, about connection.
The Kikuku poem, about the blind child and the cherry blossoms.
Yes. Tell us about that.
It's a simple, beautiful scene. A blind child being guided by his mother, and she's pointing out the cherry blossoms, admiring them.
Okay.
But the insight is that we all have different ways of seeing and different kinds of blindness. We all have unique perspectives, unique blind spots.
So we need each other to get the full picture.
Pretty much. Nepo puts it wonderfully. He says, we take turns being the blind child, needing guidance, the loving guide offering our sight, and even the unsuspecting blossom just being there to be appreciated.
Highlighting our interdependence.
Yes, the richness that comes from sharing our different ways of experiencing the world.
That's lovely. Now, what about rewards? We often expect rewards for doing good things, right?
They do. We think if I'm honest, if I'm kind, something good externally should happen.
Like a cosmic transaction.
Kind of. But Nepo shifts the focus. He talks about the intrinsic rewards.
What does he mean by that?
Well, the reward for breathing isn't praise, it's air. The reward for climbing isn't just the summit, it's the new view you gain. And the reward for kindness isn't just gratitude, it's the feeling itself, what he calls the electricity of giving. It enriches you directly.
So pay attention to the value in the action itself, not just what you might get for it later.
Exactly. Find the fulfillment in the process.
That ties into perspective, maybe? He has that parable about the salt.
Oh, the Hindu master and the apprentice.
Yes.
With the salt in the glass of water versus the lake.
Right. Tell us that one.
So the master has the apprentice taste salt dissolved in a small glass of water. It's overwhelmingly bitter, right?
Makes sense.
Then he puts the same amount of salt into a vast clear lake and asks the apprentice to taste the lake water.
And it's barely noticeable.
Exactly. The amount of salt, the difficult, the pain is the same. But the container, the capacity to hold it is vastly different.
So our perspective, our sense of spaciousness changes how we experience hardship.
That's the core idea. When you feel overwhelmed by life's trouble or even just too much information, remembering the lake, the bigger picture, your connections, the vastness of existence can make the salt feel much less intense.
That's incredibly useful, a great way to reframe things. What about the cost of not being true to yourself?
He contrasts that with the cost of being authentic. It's a really important distinction.
How so?
Well, being visible, being truthful, might lead to some external friction, right?
Yeah.
Disagreements, maybe people not liking it.
Sure, that can happen.
But trying to be invisible, trying to please everyone by hiding who you are, that creates internal conflict, a deep friction within yourself.
And Nepo says that internal conflict is worse.
He says it's more deadly to the spirit. The cost of constantly suppressing your truth, trying to fit a mold that isn't yours, is ultimately much higher.
So authenticity, even if it causes ripples outside, is healthier inside.
Yeah, it's the argument. Prioritize inner integrity.
Which leads to connection again. He talks about Lucieran's insight.
Yes, young Jacques Lucieran, who was blind, he talked about not living in front of things, but with them.
Living with them.
Yeah, like tuning into people, allowing a connection, almost like electricity, feeling part of what you perceive, not separate from it.
And that connection, that's love.
That's how Lucieran and Nepo, interpreting him, frame it. Moving from being just an observer to realizing you're part of everything that's a path to wholeness, to love. It's about letting yourself feel that current between you and the world, or you and another person.
A very different way of relating to the world. Less separation.
Much less. And that ties into another perspective he offers, the not two, only one idea.
Okay, what's that about? It sounds a bit zen.
It has that feel. It addresses why we often feel dissatisfied or depressed about what we lack.
Because we focus on what's missing.
Right. We tend to believe that only the thing we currently want holds real value. Everything else feels less than.
Which leads to constant striving, feeling like something's wrong.
Exactly. But Nepo suggests holding all of it, the 10,000 things, the good, the bad, the easy, the difficult. Hold it all up to the light of your heart.
And what happens then?
You start to see the underlying unity, that it's all interconnected, all part of one unfolding reality. From that view, there aren't really wrong turns, just different parts of the path.
Finding value in the whole experience, not just the preferred parts.
Yes. Seeing the oneness beneath the apparent multiplicity.
Okay. And related to seeing differently, he talks about miracle thinking. What does he mean by that?
It's not necessarily about, supernatural events in the usual sense. It's more about believing in what isn't immediately obvious.
Like possibilities others don't see.
Exactly. Cultivating that belief, that openness, actually connects us more deeply. It brings all moments, even the tough ones, back to a kind of central unity. It makes the world feel less fragmented.
And how do we cultivate that?
He encourages becoming aware of that old and original part of yourself, your core essence, and then looking for and being open to finding that same deep part in others, seeing the shared humanity beneath the surface.
Seeing the miracle in the ordinary, in the connection.
You could say that. And speaking of inner journeys, he shares something quite personal about his own path.
About seeking fame.
Yeah, as a poet. He pursued external recognition, validation, and then realized something important.
What was that?
That the threshold always returns to you, meaning those core issues, those deep needs in his case, maybe for self-love or acceptance, they don't just vanish because you achieve something external.
They keep showing up.
They keep showing up. The thresholds, the challenges, they stay put. We're the ones who keep returning to them, hopefully with a bit more readiness, more experience each time.
Because the soul needs truth.
As he puts it, the soul knows only one way to fulfill itself, and that is to take in what is true. The inner work eventually calls you back.
That's a humbling thought. Okay, one last piece for today, this idea of the path off the path.
Ah, yes, a lovely way to end. He describes being drawn off the main trail into a quiet clearing.
An unexpected detour.
Right. And in that clearing, he finds this profound sense of connection. Here's this deep inner song, the song the birds imitate.
So the detour led somewhere important.
Exactly. It's a metaphor for those moments in life when we're pulled in an unexpected direction. Maybe it doesn't fit the plan, maybe it seems illogical.
But it leads to something vital.
It can. Nepo suggests these detours, these clearings, can lead us to experiences that really feed our souls, insights we'd miss if we just stuck rigidly to the map.
So stay open to the unexpected diversions.
Be open to the paths off the path in your own life. You never know where they might lead.
Wow, okay. That's a lot of rich material from the Book of Awakening. A
Yeah.
really powerful deep dive.
It really is a book you can return to again and again. The central thread, I think, is really about waking up to your inner life, to the world around you, through paying mindful attention.
Just being present to what's actually happening inside and out.
That's the core of it, cultivating that awareness.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to carry with you. Reflect on that idea of the door of fear.
Hmm.
Is there a threshold in your life right now, something you're hesitant to approach? What might happen if you just stayed with the uncertainty for a bit, trusting, as Nepo suggests, that even darkness can become seeable with patience?
A powerful question to sit with.
Indeed. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it gave you some valuable insights to explore further.